Good afternoon. I want to welcome all of you to actually this is the third lecture in the series that we are calling Leadership Lecture Series Alumni Speak. We have been very fortunate in recruiting three of our renowned alumni to speak so far, and Sitaram is the latest in the list. Some of you may have attended the lectures earlier by Anand Rajaraman and also by B. Sumantran. And just like Sumantran, Sitaram is also from my batch, the 81 batch. And unlike Sumantran, he's actually from chemical engineering, so he's also my branch mate. But Sitaram, I won't tell you what his nickname was. You can ask me later. Is also a product of the campus. Went to KV, IIT. His father was Ramji Rao, was a faculty in physics here. So his roots in IIT Madras are very, very deep. So along with the rest of us, he graduated in 1981. And like I think about 8 of us, he went to University of Houston to do his PhD. And actually completed his PhD at Houston, unlike some of us who I think quit halfway through. Since then, I guess you have spent your time primarily in Houston, is that? Okay, so actually you haven't traveled much. It's been Chennai and then Houston, so it's very nice. So Dr. Sitaram is now the Development Planning Manager for Arctic and Caspian projects with ExxonMobil Development Company. He started in 1987 with mobile R&D at the Dallas Research Lab. He's had various technical and managerial assignments over the past 24 years in the upstream energy industry, conducting and managing technical work to develop oil and gas fields. He has worked a lot in the area of reservoir engineering, modeling, and predicting the performance of oil and gas fields. His work assignments with Mobil and ExxonMobil have taken him to Dallas, Scotland, Indonesia, Russia, and Houston. Currently, Ram is managing a group of engineers that provide support for new upstream projects in the Caspian and Arctic regions. His team works on economic evaluations and new field development plans for ExxonMobil's new capital projects in areas such as Kazakhstan, UK, Russia, Alaska, and Canada. I'm very happy to welcome Sitaram back to the campus. Of course, he was here last week for our Pearl reunion, so I welcome him back to the campus one more time. And his talk, as you can see, is titled The Outlook for Energy, A View to 2040.
It's always a pleasure to come back to IIT Madras. As Nagraj said, my roots go very deep. I grew up on this campus for 20 years, from Vanavani School to KVIIT to IIT Madras. So fond memories of the campus. I think I've climbed every tree on the campus growing up and playing over here. Although I have to say it's hard to recognize the campus anymore these days. Those trees have gotten a lot bigger. There's a lot more trees and a lot of new buildings, etc. So let me first start by saying thank you to Professor Nagraj for inviting me to speak here and for all of you to make the time to come and attend this. It's a distinct pleasure for me, and it's, you know, like Professor Nagraj said, with my father being on the faculty here, this institution means a lot more to me than just 5 years of education. So I am so glad to be back here providing the benefit of my experience since I left the campus. So pretty much since I left here, I've been in the energy industry. So close to 30 years now. Makes me feel old just saying that number. But the amount of engineering that goes into the energy industry, the amount of engineering that goes into bringing each one of us the energy that we need for our daily lives is mind-boggling. It's very easy to take a plug it into the wall, and use whatever comes out of it. It's very easy to put your key into the ignition, start the car, and move it along. you don't very often think about where it's coming from and how did it get there and where is it all going. And that's kind of what I want to focus on for the next 45 minutes to an hour, depending on your energy. And so, as Professor mentioned, I work for ExxonMobil, and we do this energy outlook. It's an internal study that we do every year. The outlook is refreshed every year. This is the basis for our investments in future projects. This is our projection on how things are going to go, and that's what we use to guide the investment of pretty close to $30 to $40 billion every year. So this is near and dear to our heart, and we have to get it right. So a lot of work goes into this. And we're not the only company that does it. Every major energy company does it. Public institutions like the International Energy Authority, or IEA, they have their own outlook as well. The conclusions are all fairly similar. So there's nothing proprietary, nothing unusual about what I'm going to tell you. But at the same time, it is a compendium of trends that is all coming together in one place, that it's very useful to see the trends when you put it all together. So the outlook itself is based on data from nearly 100 countries. First, we start by looking at the demand sector. Where are the demand for energy coming from? Where are all the different sectors? And then we look at the supply side. Where are the fuels coming from? What kind of fuels do we see projecting feeding that demand? And then there's a technology and policy overlay. And the technology piece is something I want to talk to you all about. The amount of brain power in this campus is clearly among the best in the world. And so that technology is the heart of everything we do in the energy industry. That's what sustains us. Each time you think in the basis of current technology that this is as far as you can go, then along comes a new breakthrough idea, something different from bright minds like yourself, and then you get to expand it a little further and a little further, and this has borne itself out year after year, decade after decade. So we don't see that trend stopping anytime soon. And so technology is a key part of what is going to take to provide the fuel to meet the demand. And then there's, of course, policy. There's a huge amount of policy issues that we have to deal with, ranging from greenhouse gas emissions, from fuel efficiency mandates, and areas that we can develop and we cannot develop, etc. So we have to take that policy imprint into effect as well. We put all of that together and then come up with the 30-year prediction that I'm going to go through with you all. Please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions anytime. You don't have to wait till the end. And in fact, I have a couple of ExxonMobil caps for the best question that you all can ask. So just a small thank you from our perspective. So just a quick reminder over the next slide that energy is intricately involved in each one of our lives. All of the electronics, and boy, I mean the number of gadgets that we all have in our lives today, the power that comes to recharge that electronics comes from fuels when you take it all the way back. 66 million cars fill up their tanks every day, and that number is steadily growing too. I come back to this country about every 5 years or so, so I get incremental snapshots of how India, for example, is developing, which is in a unique perspective rather than staying and experience that growth on an incremental basis. So for me, those are 5-year snapshots, and it's incredible to see the amount of progress, to see the amount of day-to-day improvements, whether it's electronics, whether it's cars, whether it's technology, education, and things like that take energy. At the heart of it all is energy. The roads we drive on are made up of petroleum products, tar, asphalt, etc. Food takes energy to grow it, To harvest it, to transport it, to store it, to sell it, all of it takes energy. Something we don't necessarily think about when we go to the market to shop for our food. Half of the global electricity produced goes into making consumer goods, not in using them. So we can't forget the fact that even to make consumer goods, it consumes energy as well. So that's a quick reminder of the role energy plays in our lives. I want to talk a little bit about the key drivers behind the growth in energy demand. Clearly, population growth is the number one component of that. The growth in living standards is another component of that. Not only is the world growing in population, the lifestyle of each individual on average is getting better too, and that takes energy. So energy is essentially a birthright in terms of when you connect it to the birthright of every person to improve their lot in life, something you can't deny people, but along with that comes a need for energy. So the combination of those two factors is one of the key drivers behind the growth in energy. So this plot here, by the way, you'll see OECD mentioned in my talk quite often. It stands for Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Think developed countries, essentially, Europe, North America, etc. So when you see OECD, it's the developed countries, and then there's a lot of emphasis on the developing countries, India being one of the key ones of that. The neat part is I give this talk in the US quite often, and I'm talking about India as an example, and here I am with you guys in India talking about this talk, so you can relate to the kind of things I'm talking about better than any of the American audiences can. So I love this opportunity for that reason. So if you look at the developed countries, the population growth obviously is not huge. I think it's on the order of about 1 or 2% a year. Sorry, less than that, 0.4% a year. And a growing number of that population is in the age 65 plus. The reason why we break out these age groups is that the middle group of 15 to 64, they are the drivers of the economic engine. And so the size of that population and the growth in that size of the population directly ties to the growth in your economy. So in the OECD, we don't see a significant shift in that key population when it comes to the economy. China, on the other hand, the population is steadily growing, but because of their family size policies, etc., we're predicting that over time their 15 to 64 age group is actually going to drop. There's already a labor shortage in China. You all may have heard of that, and lack of sufficient skilled labor, etc. So they're starting to feel that pinch. They're starting to feel that curve starting to come back down. India, on the other hand, and again, this should be, you all are probably familiar with this statistic already. In this country, not only is the population going to grow, but that key age group of 15 to 64, or the demographic dividend as we call it, is also going to grow over time. So the engine of economic growth is stronger in India than in China and in the developed countries. Another key area is Africa. As you can see, the growth both in the population as well as in that key age group is significant. Now, one comment is that Africa is probably not going to see that explosive growth that China has or India has, mainly because they don't have the advantage of the level of education and the investment that the government as well as the public sector is putting into. That is still lagging behind in Africa. So these trends may not necessarily tie directly to an explosion in economic growth like what we've seen in China. So this is a key input into the prediction of how energy is going to change over time.